Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Let me make sure. I have to take this away first. There we go. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Not quite fallen, but they're on their way down. Oh, what a twisted web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. The pride cometh before the storm, right? And so on, and so on, and so on. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. Lola Love, thank you so much for being here first. Hello, Elaine Parker. Sorry to keep you up so late or to wake you up so early. Hello, Marilyn King, Patty Askew, Andrew Bodie, Stephanie Baker. Thank you so much for being here. Ooh, Stephanie, I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. Now do you see why I go on and on and on about pedal? Now do you see? Now do you see? This is what I mean when I say pedal makes me step my game up because it just doesn't make any sense to do something half, you know what, when someone who works so hard like pedal brings receipt after receipt after receipt. And then after that, then she has to her other job. So pedal is a force of nature, tried and true. The ability to recall is so impressive. So thank you for mentioning that, Stephanie. Um, let's see, Marilyn King. Well, why don't I just go and scroll all the way down to the end since it is already kind of late for some of you all. So I'm just going to scroll all the way to the very last. Oh, wow. You guys have been having one hell of a conversation. Vonzola Adams, thank you so much for joining the chat. Um, Greatly appreciated. Thank you for being here. Let me grab my slides here. Oh, wait. I need to do something first. There we go. Need to do one thing to my slides before I throw it up there. All right. Now I can bring up my slides. Okay. Oh, Danny boy, the karma is coming from glen to glen and every mountainside. You've been shady and now you're sorted. But honestly though, it's people have been hurt allegedly. People have been hurt. And while I do take comfort in knowing that eventually an evildoer may have been brought down to their knees, no pun intended, um, the idea that that may very well happen, and I think as long as people keep up the pressure, long as people keep it trending, because um, this is a person, this is a person who said some really vicious things about a woman who eventually deleted herself, and it did not seem to matter. This is a person who has used every ploy and every tactic to run roughshod over people, to muscle in, to gain control of a conversation, to expose things that are not even criminal, but he took it upon himself to bully people. And I think that that very powerful instrument of his mouth, um, may at some point be silent because of all of these revelations. And you ask yourself, why would someone risk, that is, if there is guilt here, why would someone risk so much when they're in such an amazing position? I was very naive about things when I was young, and I used to wonder why they would write these stories about people in Hollywood. They're just making up stuff. None of this is true. Well, it turns out a lot of it was true, but the sad thing is they weren't telling these stories to help people. They were just solely doing it to make money. All they were thinking about was themselves. It wasn't the public has a right to know. The thing is, I'm a bully and I need to make it about me. I need to show everybody how clever I am, how resourceful I am, how much power I have. And I even believe that his power, as he sees it, exceeds even that of the royal family. This is how a big nobody, this is how a big nobody, like a Dan Wootton, like a Pierce Morgan or Jeremy Clarkson, or any of those people, this is how someone who otherwise would just be a little footnote in history, and indeed, I think most of them will be, they'll be that person that you hear about in a documentary years from now, and then you'll Google them and you're like, oh wow, that's what happened, huh? Oh, that's how that came out. That is going to be the claim to fame for most of those people. Not that they fed a hungry person, except for themselves, not that they cured a disease, not that they raised funding for some charity or something like that. No, that a person like this or a person like those people I just named, that they were able to attack and verbally assault all of the people that are actually making a difference in people's day-to-day lives. People like Dan Wootton only makes you more cynical and more sarcastic. It only makes you more paranoid about things that are none of your business and that you couldn't control anyway. It causes you to scrutinize people that otherwise are just going about their business, but instead they want to bring every human flaw they can to the attention of the average person and hope that you would side with them in bringing that person down and exposing this group or that person. That seems to be the modus operandi, is to just destroy, 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 to humiliate, to humiliate, to drag people, to electronically lynch someone until they submit and give an interview, until they submit and actually show you how much you need me. Otherwise, I'm going to tear you down some more. Isn't that what Pierce Morgan does? Pierce Morgan just keeps attacking until you give him an interview. Otherwise, he just doesn't let up. And sadly, so many people give in. But Dan Wootton, his motivation seems to be more sinister than most because it is it seems to be more intimate, literally more intimate. It seems as though it's more important to make sure that he has stripped a person naked of everything, and only then is he satisfied that he is making the point that I'm a bully and that I can destroy you, I can take you down, I can build you up. He doesn't like anybody. He doesn't care about Charles. He doesn't care about William. He certainly didn't care about the Queen. It's all about him. It's all about his power. Andrew Bodie says, Baron, you are so right. That son of a biscuit eater, they're all predators. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it is. Is very predatory. Just like in financing, you have someone who finds a company that's weak but yet profitable, and you go in there and you ruin it for people who thought they were going to retire at that company. And why do they do that? Because they can. And this is how these particular journalists, this is how the British tabloid media functions. This is one of the great imports from the UK. Racism, of course, um, the slave trade. I mean, slavery certainly didn't start with the British, but we do know one thing's for sure: um, the global expansion of an empire was built upon slavery. And just happens to be the biggest empire that has ever existed in history. They kind of went hand in hand. So, oh man, those sinister, leering eyes. I wonder how many people have stared into those eyes as their lives were being ruined, and there was nothing that they could do about it. Nothing at all. Thank you so much, Andrew, for the super chat, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex as always. Lorna Williams says, "Remember that snake, Dan Wootton, has two heads. If they cut him off in the UK, watch him show up on Sky News Australia. I will only be happy when he does a perp walk. Absolutely. Lock him up. Lock him up. You get a bell for that." And Jacqueline Squash, did I miss a prayer? Jacqueline says, "Good evening, Baron, moderator, Squatty family. Our God Almighty blessed his children even when we're going through. Um, our Sussex family and Mom Doria are just as blessed because they got it like that." Thank you so much, Jacqueline Squash. And you get a bell. Thank you so much for that. Oh, man. So, where to start, huh? Shay says, if the Met Police won't do anything to bring this man uh, to jail because they're scared of the Murdoch minions, then they involve the Interpol and report this man and be deported. This man to be well, actually, he has dual citizenship. So, from what I read, he has dual citizenship. So, it's not likely that he is ever going to leave. If he does, it'll be at his own accord. It would only be because things have gotten too heavy and too hectic over there. But otherwise, I don't suspect he's going anywhere. Little Max says these sad little people were bullied as children, so now they're getting revenge for their pathetic childhood. I think Dan is jealous of Megan because he wants Harry. Well, Little Mac, you make a good point there because as you remember, um, there were quite a few times when some rather, shall we say, creepy, yeah, let's say creepy, when some very creepy things were said about Harry's appearance by Dan Wootton. I mean, rather unprofessional if you ask me, but you know, he said what he said. Hello, Susie Q, Dustin Patterson. I'm sorry, Dusty Patterson. Let me see. Danielle Musella says, somebody like Dan usually has a great trauma done to them in their early youth, something which irrevocably scared and twisted their mind and emotions. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. However, um, that's also just a good cover for someone like this too, to play on that. So this may just be a very entitled individual that has gotten away with things more often than not. And the reward is that nobody ever challenges him, right? Oh, by the way, thank you so much for the Cash App, LH. Thank you very much for the Cash App. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. What is wrong with my little clapper? My little clapper is acting funny on my bell. But thank you so much for that. Greatly appreciate it. Um, oh, okay. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So anyway, let me continue here. Oh, let's see. Hopeland Grider, thank you so much for the super sticker. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. So, this just happened actually. This just happened perhaps about I don't know, maybe an hour ago or something like that. Oh, thank you, Elaine Parker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And as always, thank you for watching Royal Sussex. Now, let me find this soundbite for you because it is quite interesting. Okay. Okay. Soundbite. Don't disappoint me. Okay, here we go.
The Sun journalist turned GB News presenter Dan Wootton used the opening minutes of his programme tonight to speak out against what he called a smear campaign and unspeakable slurs against him on social media. Both The Sun and the Mail have confirmed tonight that they are investigating allegations against him. And Rebecca is here to bring us up to date, very legally contentious story. But over to you.
Yeah, for any of those who don't know the name Dan Wootton, you might be aware of his work as a tabloid journalist. He now writes a column for the Mail Online, but he was at the News of the World and at the Sun, where he most famously, perhaps, broke the story that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were planning to leave their roles in the royal family and move abroad, which was, of course, an enormous story with enormous repercussions. In the last few days, he's faced allegations. He's accused of using a fake identity to pay people for sexually explicit images. In his show tonight on GB News, he addressed those allegations, describing it as a smear campaign and a witch hunt.
As a journalist, I feel uncomfortable being the story, but I've always promised you that this show has no spin and no bias and no censorship. So I owe it to you to address this. I, like all fallible human beings, have made errors of judgment in the past, but the criminal allegations being made against me are simply untrue.
Well, tonight, both his current and his former employers have told us, that's the News UK, which publishes The Sun, and DMG Media, the parent company of the Mail Online. They've told us that they are aware of these allegations and they are looking into them.
Okay, Rebecca, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, so there you have it. That was on ITV, which means that the story is becoming increasingly mainstream. And that's very important. If there's any way that there's going to be justice served, that is, okay, I'll just say this. It takes us closer to the perp walk, okay? I am not optimistic that there will be a perp walk, but and for those of you that are not familiar with that term, a perp walk is when a perpetrator is paraded by the police. And when it's called a perp walk, it is because most times the police deliberately announce the exit or the entry to or from a police headquarters. And at that point, they give the media, the press, a good opportunity to stake out the area so that they can, snap all the photos and yell questions like, "Why did you do it?" So that is what a perp walk is. So it is for the suspect or the perpetrator, but it just means that the person likely has been arrested, and then, of course, their guilt or innocent will be determined later in a court of law. That's usually how it works out. So, Patricia Hightower, thank you so much for the super sticker. See, something's wrong with my clapper. What is wrong with my? Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Yeah, there's something wrong with my clapper. Oh, that's the 10 p.m. news on ITV. Thank you, Elaine Parker. Thank you very much for that. Yes, Trinette Mitchell, I agree. They need to unturn every stone. And you know what happens when you turn over a stone? You find all kind of little wiggly and sticky little creatures up under it. Not to be confused with Dan Wootton, but I can imagine why most people would. So yeah, so that is what came out not long ago. And so, yes, I would imagine that they are circling the wagons as we speak. Now, right here, the Express says Dan Wootton fights back tears as he claims he's being attacked in smear campaign. Dan Wootton insisted any criminal allegations made against him on social media in recent days are untrue during a 5-minute monologue on his GB News show. You know, something he could have actually said yesterday, but it was only when the heat was turned up that he decided that he needed to come out and say more, right? That's what happens when you turn up the heat. And then, of course, Dan Wootton fights back tears as he denies smear campaign allegations trying to destroy my life. Wow, isn't that a turn of events? He who has done everything he could to take down so many, all of a sudden has turned into a lamb. The lion has become the lamb. Big Mama says Barron Byline wouldn't risk being sued if they didn't have good evidence, would they? I agree. I agree. The evidence is clear. They are going to try to do. They're going to try to shout down the evidence. If they can shout loud enough, then that would embolden, like say, the Met Police, amongst others. That will make it possible for this to go away. That is what they do, is that they come up with a narrative, everybody gets on board with it. You know, like for instance, the more recent case with the host of This Morning, the way that they were able to spin this narrative that there was no issue with age. It may not have been the most respectable thing, but there was no issue with the age. Now, of course, everybody who was paying attention knows that we were hearing numbers like 10 and 12, but by the time they were done, it moved forward to what was it, 17 and 18. So again, it just goes to show how they are able to circle the wagons, apply some spin, and next thing you know, it goes away. Well, let's see what happens with this one. But that is a formula that the tabloid media has used for decades. VS says it's insulting that he wants to play victim when he destroyed Carolyn Flack and nearly Megan F him in the tweet. Thank you, VS. Thank you for saying what so many other people are thinking or saying in the privacy of their homes. Thank you very much. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let me continue. So there's more of the same. Right here, GB News presenter Dan Wootton claims conduct allegations are campaign to destroy my life. The publisher behind The Sun and Mail Online said that they were looking into allegations after claims that Mr. Wootton offered colleagues tens of thousands of pounds in return for sexual material. And so some of these people, I don't know how famous they are or how well known they are. So if they're not public figures, I certainly don't want to share their names. But this person here says, strange how the first time these outlets cover the Dan Wootton allegations is not by speaking to the alleged victims, but by that word leading on his defense and fighting back tears. Exactly. And then, of course, it says the Express doesn't even bother to say where the allegations were first reported. So this person who's not even likely a squatty, has decided to chime in and just point out a little inconsistency here, how they didn't even bother to try to speak to one of the alleged victims, but they'd rather spend their time trying to hear his side of the story. And eventually, by inserting the talking points necessary to distract the public. And of course, again, Dan Wootton fights back tears as he denies smear campaign allegations trying to destroy my life. Dan Wootton fight back tears as claims he's being attacked in a smear campaign. And the Mirror says Dan Wootton claims he's victim of a smear campaign as Sun and Mail probe online claims. No, they ain't. I can guarantee you. No, they ain't. They ain't probing nothing. They ain't probing a thing. They are paying lip service. You know what I always say? The best thing to do is to look like you're doing something. If you're not doing anything, it's always important to make it seem like you're doing something, to make it seem as though you're actually taking action, when the truth is you're doing nothing and you're not going to expose anyone. So it's all smoke and mirror. Now, Katie Wiesel, she has a blue check mark, so I think that's fair. Um, she says it's now mainstream news. Sun and Mail publishers examine claims against journalist Dan Wootton. So there you go. About 5 hours ago, I think she said that, maybe longer. She said, "Yeah, now it's mainstream news. Now that the Guardian has picked it up, now that the Mail and the Sun, are looking into it, it's mainstream." And so this Alex person, this evening, Dan Wootton has said in his lead segment on GB News that I abused him and have made up some very serious allegations just to get him canceled. This is false. I stand by every word I have tweeted. This story will continue and develop, and after hearing from others, well, anyway, this is the one who had that very long tweet, the one who said that he found the bag of incriminating evidence. He says he's not going anywhere. Now, the Sun and the Mail publishers examined claims against journalist Dan Wootton. And as you can see here on the right side, this is from The Guardian. The Guardian has, over the last 3 years, talked to multiple individuals working in the media who say they have been approached online by a person using the name Martin Branning. The individuals, usually with links to the Sun, describe being offered tens of thousands of pounds by Branning, usually in return for performing sexual acts on camera. The messages appeared to be personalized and were targeted at individuals, usually straight men, including employees of UK News UK. So Y'all, listen. That is like one of those honey traps. Now, this is very upsetting for some people because families have been affected by this, where teenagers have been encouraged to post images. And sometimes these images end up going to obviously someone who's not who they say they are. They pretend to be a student at another school or a classmate or whatever. And once they get these photos, they tell these younger people to give me $5,000. Well, go into mom and dad's money. Oh, you have a trust fund? That sort of thing. And they extort money from those young people. And some of them have actually paid. And when they could not pay enough, I guess to put it mildly, and it it's so painful to say this, but they've joined with Carolyn. That's what happened. And so it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. It's very dangerous. And it even makes me wonder. It makes me wonder about Carolyn. But it's very dangerous. Lives are ruined all the time because of something like that. And as Woo Woo said, I have he used the term fallible. I've made fallible mistakes. Was that the words? So there's something there. There's something there. And it hasn't been proven as of yet to be something illegal, but there's something there. And we all know it. We all know that there's something to it. I'm not saying that anything was illegal or unjust, but this emotional monologue at the beginning of the show or at the end of the show, whenever it happened, is because there's an air of truth to it. A truth that is going to be exposed, a truth that will prove to be embarrassing. And I pray God that we don't find out that there's a trail of evidence that leads to Carolyn or someone else that was in that situation. But it's making me wonder. It is really, really making me wonder. Because in order to get certain information, we know that people in the tabloid media have done illegal things. Tabloids have admitted that they even Rebecca Brooks, who, by the way, full disclosure, she has not ever gone to jail. Other people have, other people that she knows, other people that she may have worked with, but not her. She was able to avoid jail time. Others lower on the rungs of the ladder did go to jail. So we know for sure that it's not above anyone in that tabloid media, especially the print media, it's not above them to break the law. Whether or not it happened in this case, that remains to be seen, but we may never know because certain people are protected. Leg says, DW, Megan made Kate cry. The remix using use Darvo. Thank you so much for that, Legs. Yeah, yeah. That is just one of those allegations that spread like wildfire. And yet there was no consideration for Megan that, oh, maybe they got it wrong or it's not true. There was no attempt to show any humanity to Rachel Meghan Markle. the Duchess of Sussex, Princess Meghan. But for the reporters, they go above and beyond to make sure that they get it right. They have to make sure they get it right. They have to use every tool available to make sure that they get things right as far as these reporters are concerned. But as for other people, as for the woman of African American descent, nay, that's not necessary. If it just sounds true, then it probably is, right? That's how that works out. Thank you so much for the super chat, Legs. Okay, I'm gonna just scroll ahead here. Oh yeah, definitely Joy Moore. Okay, let me go to the next slide. So right here, Michael Walker. Now, as you guys know, I am not a fan of Michael Walker anymore. I don't bother with Novara Media because I think that they have been rude where the Sussexes are concerned. They seem to have chosen a side, and that side is not necessarily with the institution, but it seems as though they have joined the hate brigade. And even worse, someone with not Michael, but someone with the media group seemed to suggest that the Sussexes give up their title. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I used to support that channel. I thought they were doing great work. And so I no longer watch that channel. Let's see, Baron, if or when this comes down is going to hit hard on a lot of people. I pray it does, B. Martin. I pray it does. And I hope it's the people who have bullied and who have conspired to destroy the lives of otherwise very human and in some cases very innocent people. I pray that it does come down hard on the perpetrators, as it were. I pray it does. I hope they get their comeuppance. And thank you so much for the super sticker. Let's see. So Michael Walker said this kind of journalism about high-profile figures take a lot of work and money, lawyers, etc. Impressive is being done by an independent outlet. Well, Novara Media is independent, but again, I don't like the way they refer to the Sussexes in different conversations. They seem to have gone rogue where that's concerned, but I agree with him. You know, it takes a lot of work, and actually, if you want to support those various medias, including Novara Media, I'm not saying you shouldn't support them. I'm just saying I'm not doing it anymore. You know, it is very important that independent voices in journalism are heard. Let's see, that was Ash more than Michael, but I left it alone. Right, Lydia? Um, you know, it seemed like there was a tone, and I could, if it's any indication of where their sentiments are, I'm done. Stick a pin in me. I'm done. Okay, so Peter Hunt says an extraordinary allegation that has received zero coverage. Now, of course, this was on the 13th that he posted that. And as he goes there, it says, seemed typical. So he retweeted something from the 13th. An extraordinary allegation has received zero coverage. Has anyone asked Kensington Palace what action, if any, was taken by Prince William? You know, Peter Hunt tends to troll the royals. I was braced for a lecture. I'm sorry, it didn't come. Willie was subdued. He wanted to listen for the first time in a long time. My brother heard me out. I was heard, so grateful. I'm sorry, and I was so grateful. What I'm saying here. I told him about the past staff member sabotaging Meg, plotting against her. I told him about one current staff member whose close friend was taking payments for leaking private stuff to the press about Meg and me. These are the words of Harry, I suppose. My sources on this were above reproach, including several journalists and barristers. Plus, I'd made a visit to Scotland Yard. Willie frowned. He and Kate had their suspicions. He'd look into it. We agreed to keep talking. Well, as you know, nothing happened. Nothing happened. I'm going to get to that part too. Because I do have some things to say about that. So, like I said, Peter Hunt, it seems as though he trolls the royal family and the courtiers. So take a look here. Sarah Vine, who has decided to cover up that space between her bottom lip and her shoulders. I don't know why, because, well, anyway, I'm not going to be cruel tonight. She decided to cover up that area. If you notice, not only does she do that, but Angela Latrine is also very polite enough to do that. I don't know why. Why do they tend to cover up that area? I don't know. As I say sarcastically, I don't know why any of the details. I'm sorry. I don't know any of the details here, and I cannot speak for others, of course, but Dan Wootton has never been anything other than a complete professional in my presence. Well, isn't that what he's supposed to do? And I'm just going to say this. This might come as a surprise, Sarah Vine, but there are certain things that I'm assuming that Dan Wootton wanted to see with other people that he has absolutely no interest whatsoever in seeing in you. Okay? I repeat, you are not equipped for his alleged curiosity. You don't have the equipment. So I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, I know for damn sure he don't want to see you like that, and he's not going to be anything but professional with you. I don't care if you were the last human being on earth. He just have to not know, because he doesn't want to get to know you like that. Some of the other people that have made these allegations, obviously, but Sarah Vine, not in the least. I can think of a lot of people that are not likely to ever put you in a position like that where you would say, gee, this is unprofessional. I'm sure he's not interested in what you have to share. You couldn't even give it away. He doesn't want it. Okay? As I say again, sarcastically, he's not interested. He's not interested. So, this idea that you've only known him to be professional, well, isn't that what they said about a lot of people in history that turned out to be a monster? Same with your sister of the covered neck, Angela Levin. He's been hugely brave and faced the allegations. Oh, there she goes, co-signing. Is that his lawyer? Is that his lawyer? Is she his lawyer? I think he's been hugely. Girl, bye. Bye, girl. Um, both of them can just stick a sock in it. It makes no difference what they say. It has nothing to do with them. And there's no situation where they matter in the way that some of these other people do. They're not going to be on the same social media site that what is it, Martin Branning? Yeah, you're not going to run into Martin on social media. So you're good. Both of you are good. You're quite safe. Now, GB News star Dan Wootton unmasked in cash for sexual images catfishing scandal in the first part of a 3-year in 3-year investigation. Um, Dan Evans writes, and Tom Latcham reveals the account of victims targeted by the powerful TV presenter. 3 years, that is a long time, y'all. That is a long time. Woo, that's a long time. Conflict of interest, Angela. You need that $300. Yes, absolutely. Conflict of interest. I suppose you're referring to that fee that was paid for those other liars. But yeah, um, she needs the money. Now, Hugh Edwards faces months off air as BBC investigation could last till autumn. Now, was this like a clever ruse to make sure that nobody looked any further into Dan? Was this someone who was presented as a compromise so that there would be no further conversation, or to maybe blunt the sword, if you would, to blunt the sword uh, that has been raised against the GB News hosts? I wonder if this was just like a little bait and switch. So, for whatever reason, they sacrificed this old screamer when the big prize was up under everybody's nose, wasn't he? He was up under everybody's nose, and they must have known this was coming, so they decided to throw him to the lions. How rude. How rude. Now, Brian Cathcart says vivid proof of corrupt powers of corporate press and the feeble complicity of most of our mainstream news media. They elevated the Sun's reckless, speculative non-journalism into crisis, but they are ignoring this real story packed with details. See, like I said, you're trying to give us this. That's not that interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. Now, not to let this one off the hook, but the police have already said, oh, nothing to see here, folks. Everybody go home. But this one, I think there's a digital paper trail. All right, a digital trail, if you will. I think that if you forensically go diving into social media, emails, and etc., if you can link someone to the actual server, then I think it would all make sense. I think it would all. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody in the Sussex squad who is good with that type of digital detective work? Has anybody talked to that someone? Because I'm sure that he would come forward and assist in any investigation. I am sure of that. One need only ask, right? And I'm thinking that that particular person, who's not necessarily a squatty but does God's work, I'm sure he would come forward and help with this investigation if called upon. As a matter of fact, I'm calling upon him right now. He would help. So, okay, let's see here. I've been looking into Martin branding for several years. Oh, yeah, I couldn't wait to get to this one. If you like to join the people already sharing fresh information with me, then my DMs are open. My email address is, or you can WhatsApp me directly. Now, I wasn't comfortable with sharing that on the Royal Sussex, but this is someone connected to, hold on, let me see here. Let me take another look just to make sure I got that right. This is someone from The Guardian. This is someone from The Guardian who wants your help. They are soliciting help in their investigative journalism. So I don't know 100% how this person is associated with the Guardian, so I don't want to share that information. But if you can source it out yourself, if you're listening right now and you have any information to share, um, the Guardian is looking for help, or at least someone on staff at the Guardian is looking for help. Now, this person, who I don't think is a squatty, but they say, anybody else find this whole Dan Wootton exposed thing a bit frightening? The complete media blackout, even by the left leaning publications, is the first time I've really been so aware of the silent power controlling everything. So, this person, like I said, I don't think that this is a squatty, but this is yet another person who has suddenly become aware of how powerful these unseen hands are when it comes to deciding what is and is not newsworthy, what will and will not be exposed. And so Kev, he says, I will never be silenced by what this man did to me. He can try and run away from the facts. My voice will be heard. The truth of the matter is, no one actually believes any of his countless denials anyway. He is the R word and is a deviant. So I'm going to show you this right here. We'll be speaking out on Dan Wootton's situation at some point soon in much more detail. 100%, he says. This is not getting lost. Thanks for so much love and support. I heard and see you all. Let's keep up this let's keep this conversation going and trending. Remember, this is his reckoning. I'm not the only survivor here. There are countless people who have been preyed on by this vile, disgusting creature over the years in so many different ways, much more to come out. Let's hold them up. Survivors are watching. Ominous words, huh? Ominous words. I'm here for it. How do you like that? I will not be silenced, he says. Monte Cristo says Kev Sutherland is in the light, not a dark force. All right. Okay. Let's continue. So, right here, help us get independent journalism into shops and newsstands. So, I said earlier that I would tell you how to help. Well, again, I wasn't exactly comfortable with sharing that much information about this, but just if you intend to support Byline, it wouldn't be too hard for you to go to their website to find out how to do it. So I'm just letting you know that they are soliciting for help. Just like the Guardian, they probably have a very slim profit margin, if any, but it costs money, and so if you want to help, if you intend on helping, then feel free to do so. It's your choice. I won't tell you what to do, but they are asking for help. All right, so and take a look there. There is Dan and Akuna Matata, or whatever her name is. There they are. And I don't know when this photo was taken, but there may come the day when they will purge those images from their various social medias. We'll see how it goes. Let's see how long it takes for them to turn against him, because this is some very serious stuff. This is some very serious stuff. And as Petal said earlier, there's actually someone who hasn't been seen who has spoken out about this stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Now, Dan Wootton, Prince William's, ends his 20-year friendship with ITV Tom Bradby over him siding with his brother Harry and becoming a mouthpiece for his and Meghan's gripes about the royals. 2-decade-long friendship between Prince William and Tom Bradby is now over, says senior royal source. Duke of Cambridge has been left annoyed that the high-profile presenter has sided with his brother Harry. Communication between the Duke of Sussex in California and Bradby in London have become commonplace, but in contrast, William is said to no longer trust the high-profile journalist who was once a close confidant. Now, this is a Dan Wootton story. The part that I have an issue with is communication between the Duke of Sussex in California and Bradby in London have become commonplace. You don't know that. You don't know that. And of course, there's no price to be paid for him making the allegation that they have been in communication. It is something that maybe William assumed and passed on through various means, or perhaps someone just made it up. Dan Wootton. Who knows how he comes about that information? But as you know, with the Sussexes, because the move to Montecito means that there are no leaks, they don't know, so they just make up stuff. Boy, that sounds just like a Camilla Tominey, don't it? They were once the most unlikely of close pals, the future king of England and dogged ITV newsman. Dogged? Really? Really? But the 2-decade-long friendship between Prince William and Tom Bradby is now over, according to senior royal sources. According to senior royal sources. Let me see. Who might a senior royal source be? Hello, is this the Daily Mail? Senior Royal here. Huh? Is that the senior royal source? Or could it have been the person sitting behind, let's see, where is that photo? Where is it? I got it. Is it that little snake behind William there? Is that the senior royal source? Royal source. Okay, now that's a courtier, an aide, an assistant, royal source. Could it have been William? Not sure. But somebody allegedly told Dan Wootton that their friendship is over with. Now, William did not deny it. As a matter of fact, from what we can tell, William wanted the story out there. And as I said, I believe that the idea was to destroy Tom Bradby. So William makes it a point to leak or brief that Tom Bradby is no longer his friend, right? Now, Tom Bradby is a very prestigious newsman in the United Kingdom, and he has also suffered from a mental health crisis, which is a pretty reckless, I think, that someone as esteemed as Tom Bradby would be given a mafioso kiss on the cheek by William, letting people know that, as far as I'm concerned, his career is over. At least that's what I think the intention was to try to destroy Tom Bradby's career. That's what I think. Why else would you punch down like that? You're the future king, and you're punching down at a reporter who was your friend for 20 years. Who does that? Who does that? Oh, I know. The same William who read a speech accusing the BBC of making his mother more paranoid and making the separation of his parents greater. And that totally absolves all of the tabloid media of any culpability. That also absolves Prince Charles. That just removes him out of any culpability when it comes to the destruction of their marriage. And of course, it protects Camilla. That just takes Camilla out of it. Camilla didn't do anything. It was the BBC and Martin Bashir lying to get the story, because they are the only people in all of the British media who has ever lied to get a story. So they decided to put all of the responsibility on the BBC, which, of course, it is alleged that Rupert Murdoch is trying to get rid of them so that there will be no type of distinguished news anywhere. Which brings me back to Tom Bradby. Why in the world would you want to eliminate someone as trusted as Tom Bradby? And people do trust Tom Bradby. Why? Because he represents that which you don't have full control of. That's why. Because he represents integrity. And you don't want that. You want snakes around you. You don't want anybody with integrity. You don't want anybody fair and balanced. This is why Omid Scobie has had such a hard time. Omid, like him or not, he has just been doing his job. We're not always going to see eye to eye with what he says, but he's been doing his job. You can't take that away from him. Same with Tom Bradby. He's just doing his job. As a matter of fact, he went heavy on Harry just to make sure that it's clear that he's doing his job, right? No hard feelings, I'm sure. He wanted to look like a credible journalist. If everybody was like a Tom Bradby, if everybody was like an Omid Scobie, there probably wouldn't be a Sussex squad. But because most of them are complete devils, then of course we have to defend our faves, because otherwise they're not going to get a fair shake anyplace. So William, the bully, the one who accused Meghan of being a bully, was upset because Tom Bradby asked Meghan, "How are you doing?" And Meghan says, "Well, no one else has asked." And that set William into a rage. I'm getting there. So Prince William ends friendship with ITV Tom Bradby over relationship with Prince Harry, right? William tells friends his relationship with Harry is over. The relationship between brothers is over. A friend of William and Kate's tell this is him making a public declaration. He's insisting that you take a side. That's what the bully is doing. He wants you to choose a side. He doesn't want you to be fair. He doesn't want you to be balanced. He doesn't want you to stay out of it. He wants you to pick a side. He wants Tom Bradby to pick a side, and he wants everyone within the sound of his voice to either pick Coke or Pepsi. Either you're with me or you're against me, but you cannot be fair and balanced. So there's Tom Bradby on the left at Harry's wedding. There's Tom Bradby on the right at William's wedding. That's how close he was to both brothers. But William decides to punch down like a bully. Here he is, a future head of state, head of church, head of military, and you are going after a reporter, a seasoned journalist, someone who has actually suffered a mental health crisis. And you think that's going to, I guess, just roll off of him like water? It's not going to leave a mark that someone who is the future king just put out a notification that we're no longer friends. If you're a friend of his, then you're no friend of mine. He was trying to destroy him. So this is the meat of it. This is the meat of it. there's Dan Wootton with James Middleton, right? When I saw that photo, I was like, oh my God. I didn't know. I didn't know, but I just assumed. I assumed because I'm looking at this snake over his shoulder, James Middleton, and I'm just like, who knows? Who knows what he's up to? And then, of course, there is William, Simon Case, Christian, what's his name? And of course, Jason Knauf, right? There's that curious quartet from the Kensington Palace. I can't prove it, but I am just going to allege that this is the source of the leaks, especially when it comes to Jason. Right here, right here, right here. Okay, let me pull this down. I can't see that. I can't see that. Jason Knauf is also close friends with Dan Wootton of the Sun tabloid. Dan Wootton outed himself as having tried to blackmail Harry and Meghan. Did they just say blackmail? Yes. That's what this person, who I decided not to identify, they called it what it is. Because Dan Wootton said he gave them 10 days. Let's take a look at this, just so that you know what he's capable of. And this is like a trip to Disneyland where he's concerned. How I really broke the news of Megxit and gave Harry and Meghan 10 days warning to handle this situation before we publish in The Sun, plus my view on why the Sussexes are becoming professional victims. Thank you, Press Gazette. So essentially, it was blackmail, right? That's what you call it. When you have something over a person and you want to coerce them into doing something they rather not. So for months, Harry and Meghan were trying to finalize leaving the institution. But with 10 days notice, they had to just go ahead and tell the world. Otherwise, Dan Wootton was going to do it for them. Now, how many times has this happened? And what leverage did he use against people? This seems rather innocuous compared to what he's being accused of by other people. "10 days notice. And then after that, there was a string of stories day after day accusing the Sussexes of blindsiding the Queen. And we all know that that wasn't the truth. Now, right there, underlined by the Sussex Squad Detective Agency, Jason Knauf, Jason Matthew Knauf, University of Wellington. Daniel John William Wootton, University of Wellington. Both of them went to the same school. One of them is a communications person at the Kensington Palace. The other, a shady journalist. Now, one never hears the other speak their name. You just never hear it brought up. But all the way from Texas, the ultimate opportunist, Jason Knauf, who used to work for the Royal Bank of Scotland, who, just like these other courtiers and public officials, they all run in the same circles. Simon Case is another one. He's usually the very young, opportunistic person that always seems to find himself in the halls of power. Now, Christian, I don't know so much about him, but the others, as shady as the day is long. And right there, there's Jason, supposedly the press secretary for the Sussexes, or communication secretary, but yet he never stopped working for William. And as I told you guys once, I said it a million times. At Kensington Palace, William was the senior most royal. So long before he inherited the Duchy of Cornwall, he already had a duchy. It was called Kensington Palace. He already had a kingdom. It was called Kensington Palace. And whether you worked for him directly or you worked for the Sussexes, if something is brought to his attention and he asks if he butts in, you are obliged to tell him what he wants, to do what he asks you to do. And it was the same with Charles and Diana. Diana could not ever feel secure at Kensington Palace because everybody was tap dancing to Charles' music. And it was the same with William. This is why the Sussexes left. William really wanted them to stay. And then when they didn't, then he decided to leak that he drove them away, that he made them leave because he heard that Meghan was bullying the staff. And so rather than siding with family, he stood up for the courtiers. When it came to the lawsuit against the tabloids, rather than siding with his brother, he decided to take the side of the tabloids. When it came to the case, the Duchess of Sussex versus the Mail, was it the Mail? Whose side did he take? Because from what we've heard, and I am going to take it as the gospel, because after all, this person has unimpeachable credentials. Who is Jason Knauf and why is he giving evidence against Meghan Markle? And then what happens? King Charles to hand New Year's honor to royal aide who called Meghan Markle a bully. Enters Jason Knauf, right? Jason is crowned, literally crowned, with his trinket for services rendered. But according to Dickie Arbiter, Meghan Markle's private messages handed over with William's approval, palace veteran. In other words, Prince William and Kate Middleton would have authorized an aide to reveal Meghan. There's no other way that would have happened. Like I said, William's word was law. He asks, he receives. And so there was no way that Jason Knauf would have just handed over incriminating emails, handpicked to imply guilt where there likely was none. He didn't hand over everything. He just put out what he thought would be the most incriminating thing against Meghan, which put other courtiers on the spot. And they, in turn, said, please remove my name from the complaint. I did not authorize you to do that. But Dickie Arbiter was the Queen's press secretary, so he knows how the chain of command works. And so there it is. Little smug, I was about to say something. Little smug Jason receives his honor, and William hands it to him. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Again, this is the person who's an old school buddy of Dan Wootton. Now, there's no proof that there's any influence, but Dan Wootton says he had a source. He said the calls were coming from inside the house, which makes one wonder, why is William so doggedly determined to go after Meghan and even after Harry? Why? The calls are coming from inside Kensington Palace. That's what happens when a stranger calls.
It's much easier for them to blame anything uncomfortable on racism rather than address the fact that the negativity toward them is coming from within the royal family. He can't help but boast about it. I'm telling you, he gets his kicks. It excites him. It completes him to control people, to make them dance, to watch them to watch them squirm because of what he might say. If you ask me, it all goes back to a pulled pork sandwich. That's what I think that this is about, a pulled pork sandwich. I think that not only have they interest William into the pulled pork sandwich, but I think that uh, Dan Wootton has interested a lot of people into the pulled pork sandwich club, and that he knows who enjoys pulled pork sandwiches the most. And if he doesn't know, he'll try to um, pull it out of them, for lack of a better word. But I think that's what it comes down to. And that's why they were saying that not only was this catfishing that was going on, not only was it happening to gay men, but it was happening to straight men. And I'm sure straight men who they hoped or suspected was gay. And if they could just shake them out of that safe space, if they can just get some photos or at least strike someone's curiosity, then we can control that person. That's the way it plays out. Now, whether or not that is actually how it starts and how it ends, that remains to be seen. But I do believe that there's more to the story. We've heard how it works, and we've heard a few people who have been influenced or who have been destroyed for that matter. We've even heard someone disappeared and hasn't been heard from since. But it puts people in a very vulnerable position. You have to understand that for someone who's a public person, you trade on your image. You trade on your image. So let's say you are a contestant or whatever on one of those reality shows. There's a lot of money to be made if you can trade on your image. But if someone has the dirt on you and they decide that they want to get more dirt on other people, that they want to get how do I put it? That they want to get the lead story every time you do something significant. In other words, they want to control you. The best way to do that is to keep your secrets, even if it's a pulled pork sandwich, to keep your secrets. So I'm thinking right now about Harry saying that his brother did not want him around him while he was at public school, as though he was embarrassed about something, right? You get what I'm saying, right? You get me? You get me? As though it was something he was embarrassed about, or maybe something he wanted to protect his brother from. Who knows? But again, I go back to that curious quartet. This very curious quartet. It just seems to me that in order for someone to use their power like that, they have to find someone who's rather fragile to begin with, right? Someone who has a very fragile ego, or someone who has suffered, you know, mentally or whatever. It's important to choose your targets if that is the case. which is why I was so disturbed when I saw James Middleton and that monster. I was alarmed by that, and it still bothers me. What are you up to? What are you up to? It's amazing how something like that just kind of won't leave you. Just like I mentioned before, when was it Tom? What is his name? Tom Parker Bowles? Is it Tom? Well, what is Camilla's son name? When I found out that a 26-year-old man was friends with an 18 and a 14-year-old, no, I'm sorry, a 16 and a 14-year-old, that set off alarm bells. And it still sets off alarm bells. Can't get that out of my head either. Within the media, the royal family, the courtiers, amongst all of those people, there is a lot of uh, subplots going on. And those subplots goes all the way back, even beyond Backstairs Billy, those subplots. And they're ripe for the picking. The royal family, they're easily exploited. Easily exploited. I know it's hard to hear someone say that they are being exploited, but I do believe that in some regards, just as much as they've exploited people using their power, there are people who have power over them that have exploited them as well. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because in order to keep those secrets, in order to keep things quiet and hush hush, you always have to give them more and more and more. And they're not going to settle for anything less. And unless you want to be ruined, you'll do as they say. Pulled pork sandwich and all. Okay, so I am done with that topic for now. I'm going to talk about a couple of positive things on our way out of here. Let me do a quick reset. There we go. All right. So nothing we can say will prepare you for this. BetterUp is partnered with Microsoft Viva to bring the science of human transformation to workplace productivity. So BetterUp is still onward and upward. They're still doing their thing. In a partnership with Microsoft, BetterUp has built a dynamic digital experience that features transformational stories, personalized insight, and guided practices to help your people jumpstart their journey toward greater purpose, potential, and performance. So let's not forget that the Chief Impact Officer at BetterUp is none other than Harry, the Duke of Sussex. Prince Harry is part of that team of people that, as a matter of fact, the company's revenue increased exponentially because of Prince Harry's position. And as the one of the founders said, we didn't choose Harry because of his name. It is quite evident when you hear Harry speak about mental health, about what is the other word for it? Well, anyway, um, when Harry speaks about his journey, you know very quickly that Harry knows his stuff. We found out from the Me You Can't See. Wasn't it Harry's idea to take it global? Oprah wanted to make it something, just in the United States. And Harry was like, this is too big. It's much bigger than just the United States. And of course, that program is what put Apple TV on the map. Harry is good in so many ways, very talented, very, very talented, far more talented than anybody else in that family. I'm just going to say it.
Also, there's this Invictus Game Foundation. We are delighted that former Invictus Games competitor and Paralympic medalist, is it Jacobin Jacobin Jacob Angus will be the host of the IGF conversation. Tomorrow tomorrow we will be detailing our activities beyond the games, and you can claim your free ticket here. So if you want to watch that, oh my goodness, I did not. Well, anyway, there it is, right there in the blue. You can write that down or whatever, and you can watch that event. Sorry about that. I'll try to put it in the community tab later. But yeah, so that is something we got to get ourselves. Oh, Jocko Van Gas. Easy for you to say, Jocko Van Gas. I didn't see that coming, but thank you so much. And there's this Invictus Games Foundation conversation beyond the game. Again, the information, this iteration of the IGF conversation will focus on the activities in sports and adventurous challenge on offer beyond the Invictus Games and focusing on improving lives beyond the games. The event will consider the development and growth of community and its ever-changing needs, sharing the best practice within the WIS community, specifically WIS peer support network involvement within the We Are Invictus community, and exploring the benefits of taking part in Invictus endeavors. So there you go. And look at some of the sponsors there. Take a look at those sponsors. We have the Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust, Ascot Rehab, Better Up, Boeing, and the Fisher House, love Fisher House, and the ISPS Honda, which, of course, you remember that from Polo. So all of those people are involved. Win-win, right? Win-win. I tell you, this thing that Harry started is huge. And lastly, this is the last thing I have for you guys. Take a look at that. There was an orange monster from the depths of hell that was trying to destroy this country. And whether you agree with 2, 3, or none of these people, the fact that those men who were the most powerful men in the world were able to sit down at a table and have a cordial lunch together, that they have carried out a peaceful transition of power time and time again. That is what makes the United States so exceptional, is that there has been a peaceful transfer of power until January 6th. That's when it wasn't so peaceful. But up until that point, it had always been a very peaceful transfer of power. There's always been cordial behavior from everyone who's sat in that office, who's been the president of the United States. And that's the way it ought to be. God help us if we ever get to a point when it's no longer like that. And for those people that actually were okay with January 6th, go to hell. Okay, so with that, you guys, let us celebrate our queens. Also, they're idiots. Don't forget that. Those who were okay with January 6th, they're idiots. They are from the shallow end of the gene pool. Okay, and with that, let's celebrate our queens. And thank you so much. Celebrate our moderators who keep this a safe space. Thank you all for your very generous contributions to Royal Sussex. Couldn't have done it without you. And also, thank you for staying up so late. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it won't be so late tomorrow, but we'll see how it goes. You guys, let's be optimistic that truth will prevail and that justice will prevail. But if it doesn't, we will be here to call them out as we've always done. All right? We'll do that. We'll do that. At least I know I am. But if for any reason you need to take a break for your mental health and well being, that is more important than anything else because you can't help anybody if you're not able to help yourself. Amen. Amen. All right. So thank you very much. I'm going to look for the last word and then I'm going to ginger avenger us out of here. I think we're getting somewhere, though. I think we're getting somewhere. I think that people first woke up to these things because of the docuseries, and then, of course, Spare. But I think it's going to go far beyond that because how many times can they keep shooting themselves in the foot by trying to gaslight members of the media to try to gaslight them into innocence when we all know what the truth is. So, all right. So, with that, the last word for today is Lydia says, praying justice will prevail. Amen to that. And cue the Ginger Avenger. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.